and we're limited admission. We're not an open admission shelter. So generally we're going to have a full shelter with a wait list. And so people get frustrated. I mean, so frustrated that they threaten our staff for not taking animals. So it's a pretty ugly world in our world. So twice in the past couple of weeks, a staff member has been, well, they have been threatened for all of their tires to be stabbed with a knife.
Somebody keyed my car yesterday on the square.
And then physically, then there was a physical, like, I'm going to physically hit you.
It's a full moon. We're in a full moon right now.
Because they couldn't park correctly. They keyed my car.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. Like, I was in my parking space, inside my white lines, on the square, and they keyed my car.
And you know it's because they couldn't
Yep.
park
Because their
correctly?
car was, like, almost on top of mine. Here we go.
Did you get the tags?
No. It is 4 minutes after 8 o'clock here at WCDT. It's Thursday.
Best day of the week.
So it says live with Ricky and Lauren on our Facebook page.
That's what I've been trying to say.
Like, I don't know who came up with that. Kenny messed up.
No,
It's all Kenny's
Lauren
fault.
came up with it, and she was correct. And Ricky tries to dispute it, but everybody agrees with Lauren. So we're right.
The only reason I actually run with this and think it's okay is because it makes me think of Live with Regis and Kathy Lee. And Regis
Yeah.
was the first name. So
Exactly.
it makes sense. Like, I can go with that.
And I also feel like there's a little bit of Lucy and Desi going on here. So, I mean,
Lucy and Desi, she says.
yeah, like,
Lucy and Desi.
isn't that how it is? Is that what that was? Lucille Ball and what was his name?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out who
Pretty
Desi is.
That was her husband. He would come in and he would be like, rah, 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 and then she would be all, you know.
Lucy, you
yeah.
got some explaining to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you kind of tell me that. And not in those exact words, but
In that tone.
kind of. Yeah. It's kind of just me because everybody does it to me.
Like, I got to keep you in line.
Yeah.
You're not the same person.
Oh, man.
Scotty tells me all the time, Lauren, nobody knows your thoughts. And we cannot read Laurenisms. I'm like, neither can I. It's okay.
Laurenism.
Laurenisms.
Yesterday was an adventure for me because I had two
Oh,
Laurens. pretty much.
yes.
And that was,
So we're working on a little side project, and Ricky got to experience me and my friend Laura.
Okay.
And if y'all think that I
Yes.
am a little up in the clouds, I am actually very rooted to Laura.
it's like Lauren on super caffeine.
Right. Like 4 liftoffs.
Yeah.
So
And 12 Red Bulls.
probably.
Wow.
Yes.
He got to sit right in the middle of that for about 3 hours.
It was an adventure.
Uh-huh.
All right, so introduce who we're talking
Okay,
about.
so we've got Emily Holland in here today with the Animal Harbor. You're the director?
I am the executive director.
Okay. So we'll let you tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how you came into being the director of the Animal Harbor, because I kind of remember you like back when you were going to college because you had this amazing love for animals.
Yeah. So, we met way back when,
Oh,
like
gosh.
11, 13,
It was-
something. I don't
yeah.
know, a long time ago. So, yeah, I think I was probably in grad school, and I studied plant and soil science with a concentration in ornithology. So I was out in the woods doing field research. Definitely my love and passion is ecology and field research. Unfortunately, I got Lyme disease during my last year of my senior thesis. I was able to write it, luckily, but I was very sick during that time, and was just trying to crunch and finish up my master's degree, and wasn't really paying attention to myself because, you know, when you're on that grind, you don't pay attention. My mother actually said, something's off, you're dropping things. I knew that my energy was low, but other than that, I wasn't really paying attention until I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and my whole life changed.
Tick bite?
Yes. And it was not uncommon for me to get multiple tick bites doing my research. I was trekking through thick woods. And it's like I always say when people are like, well, why did you do that? Like, la 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 la. And like, that was my passion. It's like a teacher that goes to school every day. They don't fear this illnesses that could potentially get. So I was the same way with my job, and but still did tick checks every day and did all the right things. Used DEET, Carhartts, long sleeves, snake boots, the whole deal, and still got multiple tick bites. So, anyways, so I went through 3 years of intense treatment for that Lyme disease, and I worked part-time. I was teaching science at a private school in Nashville, and I just wanted to be back in town, at around 2015, Nashville was getting even crazy, so this job came available, and pet adoption's my second passion, I still love research, and I'm able to do a lot of that. I'm able to problem solve in my job. Clearly, we have a lot of problems to solve here in our county when it comes to companion animal welfare. So I'm really in cloud nine in this job. It's very hard, but it's super rewarding, and I'm giving back to my community, and that means so much.
Absolutely.
So tell us about Animal Harbor. Like, what is it?
Okay, so kind of like an elevator pitch talk.
You have 50 minutes.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm not going to spend the entirety on the history and everything about Animal Harbor, but I will give everybody kind of like a synopsis of what we are, who we are, our mission, our vision, and that sort of thing. So we are Franklin County's actual first shelter. We existed before Franklin County Animal Control existed, which I think is somewhat of the reason why there's confusion in the two of us, and we can get to that later. But we are a limited or managed emissions shelter. We're not a county shelter that's open intake. So that is somewhat of a misconception here in our community. We get a lot of people that want to drop off pets on the pets or strays on the spot. That's not what we do. We manage our intake. So that means we're limited emissions. We decide what comes in. Most of the time, because the need and the demand here in our community is so high, we do that based on who is calling us, right? So there is a wait list that people go on if they want to hold, for example, their animal that they're wanting to surrender. So they go on that wait list until we do have space for that animal.
What is the typical length of wait listing?
It depends on the time of year. And Franklin County Animal Control is always an option for people, so I don't want people to think that we're the only option, and sometimes I think that's how people feel. But we help Franklin County Animal Control, so when our numbers are down, or if there's emergency cases over there, we pull those animals. We also help transport their animals to shelters in the other shelters in the area and up north. So we are like kind of a working dynamic. So the partnership of the two of us makes what we're doing in the community really great for the animals, because most of the animals are saved. Unfortunately, right now, and it's not just us, we're not immune to the issue. There's an overpopulation crisis countrywide, more so in the South, because the South really struggles with this. There's no laws that protect the animals and keep people from breeding, from not spaying and neutering or registering their pets. Our northern states have those, so therefore they don't have the same overpopulation problems that we have, and that's why a lot of our animals do go up north, because I'm sure both of you have an animal and you're not ready to adopt. I would say 85% of the homes in our county are already saturated with animals, and the people that love and care about their animals are not going to take another one in that they know they can't afford or properly provide space and love and care for. So, way more animals are coming into our shelter than are going out. So the demand is super, super high. So back to your question of how long the wait list is, that's a very hard question to answer, because it's based on so many different factors. How often we're able to move animals depends on that. So obviously we don't euthanize for space. We are classified as a no-kill shelter. A no-kill shelter doesn't mean that we don't kill. We do have to euthanize for health or major behavioral or aggression issues. But we keep our save rate at around 97% is our average save rate. So that means we're only having to euthanize 1 or 2 animals a year, typically. So back to that question, I would say anywhere from 1 week to 2 months sometimes if you're talking kitten season.
So where do you take them? You see up north, y'all.
So we have rescue partners up north. All of those rescue partners that we have about 20, depending on how many fosters they have, because we don't send them to other shelters. We send them to homes. So they go, if they're not going into their forever home, they're going into a foster home until they're adopted. So we have about, like I said, 20 partners, and they're Illinois. We're sending a lot to Wisconsin right now, Connecticut, Illinois. I said Illinois. Wisconsin is where a lot are going currently. So all of that depends on our partners and,
How do y'all
and their
find
numbers.
How does that happen? Is like a little matrix or something that gets
So
y'all get
we
together?
have an outcome coordinator that is responsible for networking with other rescues and building those relationships, and yeah, that's part of her core job is to network and find those partners. We are also partners with Bissell Pet Foundation's collaborative, so they kind of try to build the bridge between southern shelters and northern shelters. So
Okay.
they also provide some of those shelters, and they let us know when they do have some shelters in their partnership that need animals.
How many animals do y'all house?
So with the dogs, we usually house around 30. If we have fosters, it could be up to 40, depending on how many fosters we have in any given moment. And then
What's
with
the
cats,
difference there between the first 30 and then if you're having a foster? What sets them apart?
Space. So if we have, or medical cases. And it's really hard to find people to foster medical cases, but we have a lot of heartworm positive dogs, for example, and bottle fed kittens. So we're not at the shelter 24/7. It's very critical for your bottle fed kittens to be in foster homes.
Okay.
So they're just like an infant. They're getting fed every 2 hours. So we can't provide that at the shelter, so we have to recruit fosters to do that. As far as heartworm positive dogs go, that treatment is about 6 months. So imagine going through that treatment as a dog in the shelter, in a kennel, not in the comfort of a home. It's a pretty sad thing. Unfortunately, we don't have heartworm fosters. I think we've had one in the 5 years that I've been at Animal Harbor, because it's hard. Once they go through that treatment and different phases of the treatment, they have to be confined. So that's a big responsibility for people. And if that's not done, they could pass away from the worm load. So it's just a tricky thing. And we usually treat about 5 or 6 at least, sometimes upwards of 10 heartworm positive dogs a year. And those are in our shelter for a long time.
Okay.
So that's a huge need for people to foster medical cases. We have a lot of amputees, broken legs, orthopedic surgeries that are happening from animals getting hit by cars.
Now, how are those funded?
We fund everything, and we are funded by individual donors. We do have some grants that are specific to spay-neuter, but most of our monies come from individual donors, and we have business sponsors as well in the community.
Okay. Do y'all do like the spay-neuter clinics, or you offer it at a cheaper rate than if they were to go to a veterinarian?
Right. Yes, we have several community programs.
Okay.
So obviously the core of our mission is to eliminate overpopulation. So try to get to the core of the problem, and that is the problem, is people do not spay neuter their pets, or even barn. We hear the term barn cat a lot. Barn cats or feral cats that people kind of just overlook, and they're like, oh, it's not my problem. Yeah, there's a lot of cats in my community and my road, but I'm not really going to do anything about it. But now we have TNR programs. So yeah, we have a program where you can trap the cat. We will physically pay for it. You do have to take it to the vet and pick it up, but we cover the expense for TNR. With our SNAP program, which is Spay Neuter Assistance Program, We are doing $20 copays. That is contingent on income, so it's not available to everybody. We cannot afford to spay and neuter everybody's pet, but it is income contingent, and it's a great program.
So, do people still drop animals off? Like, as
Yeah, we get drop-offs.
Well, no,
and
we had the chicken house growing up. People would drop cats at the chicken house all the
Yeah.
time.
What?
Oh yeah, we'd have cats just show up randomly dropped off out there all the time.
Oh my goodness.
And
Never would I think.
we didn't hate it because they kept the rodents away.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a horrible
Right.
thing for us. Like we never fed them
Yeah.
because there was plenty of field mice and stuff to eat around the chicken house.
Mm-hmm.
But there'd be, I don't know, every week, every other week,
Wow.
there'd be a new cat show up, and you'd have I know at any given time we'd have anywhere from 15 to 20 cats
Wow.
down there. But like I said, we never had mice, so it was a fair trade-off for us.
Yeah.
But do y'all have problems with that where people are like, hey, we've had somebody drop an
Oh,
animal off?
yeah. All the time. I mean, there's hot spots in town throughout our county where dogs and cats are dropped off. And unfortunately, if someone sees that someone's taking care of a colony or a community, especially of cats, that's where they're dumped. I guess
How do they
subconsciously
know?
they feel like they're doing the right thing if they can't take them to the shelter, if they can't get in at the shelter. But Franklin County Animal Control is an open admission shelter, and they don't euthanize near as much as what people think. I think their save rate is at least 85-90%. And I can't tell you their stats. I can tell you ours, but it really the only time they have to euthanize is when it's critical and we're in crisis mode. And we've been in crisis mode, I will say, since COVID, really. Like 2019, 2020 was not so bad. And then 2021, 2022, it's just been really challenging.
What do you think is causing that? Other than, not spaying and neutering, but what do you find is one of the more personal reasons that people are...
Yeah, good question. We encourage pet ownership and companionship, but honestly, some people just don't need pets.
Same to be said about kids too. But
So many of the people that surrender their animals to us are usually what we consider a puppy up to a year old.
Okay.
So most of the owner surrenders that we get, I would say 85%, are dogs from the age of 6 months to 18 months that they got as a puppy. They didn't invest in training, vet care, and they want to give them
and that
up.
dog now chews on their shoes and their kids' toys because it needs attention and needs
Yeah.
to be played with, and they're
And,
not...
I mean, the list
capable.
of excuses just, I can't even go over
So
all
how
the
does someone
excuses.
go about adopting?
So since COVID, we have been operating by appointment because it works so effectively. Do we get critiqued over that? Of course. The community sometimes does not like it because they can't just
It's
open
not
the door.
convenient for them.
It's not convenient, but at the same time, you're not always going to be met with exactly what you want in the moment with Animal
Right.
Harbor because we do have processes. Again, like I said about the admissions side of it, we do scheduled intakes. So what that means is, generally we don't just take an animal on the spot because we have to prepare for it. We have to get a kennel ready. We have to have our intake coordinator there to do a full physical on that animal, see where they are in the process of having their vaccines, their spay neuter, and all that. So we like to be really organized. So that's why it's called managed. And we do that because it may not benefit the human, but it benefits the animal, and that's why we're there to
and
benefit the
that's
animal.
the purpose.
Right. So as far as adoption, it's similar in that if we just kept the door open and we didn't have a process, that would be what we would be doing constantly, is just having people walk back, look at the animals, and walk out the door. And we have found that has been a huge disservice for the animals because people look at an animal like you could have the cutest little pit bull in that kennel that's being super friendly and fun, and they take that dog home and it's a terrible fit
It's
for
not
their
a
home.
match.
Yeah. We have dealt with that in the past, and it's heartbreaking because in many times when there's not an application process, you don't know where that animal's going, right? You don't have any control over that. And unfortunately, in our case, we've had animals returned to us that had to be euthanized because of behavior, because their aggression has gotten so bad because someone has physically harmed them. They had not had a single vaccine or vet visit since they left our facility in 5 years, and they're coming in with heartworms. So, I think from the outside looking in, that's a hard one, because I'm telling you, we're in crisis mode. Like, yes, we need adopters. We need to move animals, and we need to save lives because the demand is so high. But at the same time, we can't just send them right out, because we can't sleep at night if we do that, because we've been in that position where we've received animals that were in horrid shape.
The thing about it is like you said, companionship is the word. A person goes out and gets an animal because they are missing some type of connection. And when they take the animal home and then they realize, oh, this is work. Like, I have to feed you. I have to do this. This is costing me money. I've got to have you groomed, and you've got to go to the vet, and you want my attention. Like, it's like taking on another kid.
It is.
And the new wears off and the cute wears off. And if you're not emotionally attached and have not bonded, then that is the first thing you do is, well, I'm going to let someone else take this problem.
Absolutely.
So you need to, you recognize the want, but are you willing to do, the hard work that follows that want?
Right. And so our application process is we have an application that you would submit, and once you submit that, it goes directly to our adoption coordinator, and she reviews it, learns about you, thinks about potential animals that could fit in with your family dynamic.
Have you ever had to turn anyone down?
Oh, we turn a lot of applicants down.
So
we have to,
Uh-huh.
based on, we have people that will openly admit, because one of our questions is, how would you manage destructive behavior? And they will respond, I will hit the animal.
Oh, goodness.
It's unbelievable what we see. When I say that, it's heartbreaking to know that they think that that's okay. We are an adoption agency that is looking out for the best interest of the animal, and they think it's okay to say that. Like, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But we also check vet references. So if you have pets in your homes that are not altered or vaccinated, we can't put our animal in your home. So that's where most of the applicants fail, is because they don't go to the vet.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it goes back to that same issue that I talked about before, that if we did send animals out to those homes, I assure you, because they don't do proper vet care or do annuals or vaccines, they're going to come back to us in a few years with heartworm disease or something that's going to be a huge price tag for us.
Right.
Or, like I said, dogs are like children. They have to be nurtured. They have to be trained. They need structure, just like a child does. And when they don't get that, with a lot of our breeds and mixed breeds, mentally they degrade. So they're out doing bad things,
And cats are evil. They just don't want nobody around.
Cats are definitely a little easier. The big thing with cats is, just giving them, they need mental stimulation too. But
yeah. So I've been watching
easier.
a ton of TikTok videos or the reels on Instagram, and they're all cats. Like, people are carrying them around in these little baby things. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I send Taylon a ton of cat videos. And I'm like, I want a cat, but I know I can't. I don't want the responsibility of a cat. But just watching the videos, like, that is dangerous, because it makes me want a cat. But I know it is not a responsibility that I need. So if anybody has a cat that needs to be loved on for a minute, I will come squeeze it like a baby, and then I'll be good.
Well, you're always welcome to come to the shelter. We have volunteers that come in and socialize cats, and that's great. You can love on them and then go home at the end of the day without taking one home, and you don't have to feel any guilt, because, and that's why a lot of people don't like to come to the shelter, because they feel like they want it. I hear it so often, like, I just want to take them all home, and like, while yes, I understand that feeling, and,
they're still getting loved on. Come love on them.
They're getting loved. Yeah, it's much better than them staying in their kennel by themselves or not getting human interaction.
So talk about that, your volunteer program.
Yeah, so it's not complicated, but so when I talk about volunteers, it's really challenging for us. We do have a volunteer coordinator, but she's a volunteer too, and she has about 15 hours a week to give to that. And she travels and she's in and out of town. So and we get so many requests to volunteer that we cannot manage every single request. So unfortunately, sometimes we do have to turn people down. And many times it's an interview process, right? So we ask them questions like, is this something that you're just doing for community service? Like, do you have to do this for Beta Club or Tennessee Promise Hours? Or is this something that you're really passionate about and you want to do? I think a lot of people get excited about volunteering at Animal Harbor, but when they realize how hard it is, they back out. So we spend a lot of time orienting people, getting them in, trying to find a niche that they fit into, and then in a month they're done, they're gone, because they realized that it was really harder than they thought it would be.
It's not just petting and loving on animals.
No. You can do that. On the cat side, I would say yes. If socializing cats is probably the least stressful thing at the shelter that you can do, and it is so rewarding. Like, if I'm having a bad day, I just go into a cat community room and I just get all the love I can get. It's not that way with dogs.
Do y'all have an Instagram or like
We
a social
do.
media? Because that
We
would be
do.
such a fun reel to watch y'all go in and like, kind of like you watch the penguins at the aquarium, like watch the cats.
Yeah,
and
yeah, we've thought about that. We thought
De-stressors.
About, we thought about like live streaming on our website, but we have Wix, and it's like slows our website down because we have so many pages. So we haven't done that yet. Or like putting a cam on a pregnant cat or something, and just kind of awaiting the arrival of those
Like they
kittens.
did the giraffe several years ago.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
that would be so cool.
I'm not gonna lie, that was probably the most annoying thing I ever sat through was the giraffe birth.
You watched it?
No, like the whole process of the giraffe. I forget what zoo it was doing it, but like this giraffe's about to give birth, and it was like a 20-day ordeal where people were watching this thing. I'm like, is this unique? Like, do giraffes not give birth daily? Like,
I don't know.
I don't understand what the whole purpose of this was. I'd be the same way with the cat birth. I'm like,
Yeah.
don't know if I want to sit there and watch that happen.
I mean,
Now, I don't know if Dad ever told you, we had a cat growing up. Her name was Squeaker. And we could never get her fixed because every time we would go to do it, she'd be pregnant again.
Oh no!
And we didn't know how she was
yeah.
getting pregnant because there was no male cats. All we ever had was her. And then we would get rid of her kittens. We'd give them away.
Oh, they're so sneaky.
So we couldn't
though.
figure out how and she was an inside cat. So we could not figure out how she was getting out of the house somehow and getting pregnant. But every time we're like, okay, she had a litter. It's been 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. We're going to get her fixed. She's pregnant again.
oh my gosh.
We're like, how is this possible? So like, she had
Wow.
like 7 litters.
It's
And-
possible. And
Yeah.
so imagine every other
That's like a rabbit.
person that happened to.
I know.
And that's how they reproduce.
But
And that's
they
why we
wouldn't-
have such a cat problem.
Because they wouldn't fix her because she's pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
we can't do it. She's pregnant. I'm like, but we
She's
can't-
going to continue
yeah, we
to be
can't catch
pregnant.
it. But the funny part was, every time she had her kittens, she had them in Dad's sock drawer. And like we would keep the drawer shut, and she still she was Houdini.
wow.
She would find her way into she would go underneath and climb up the back of the dresser and get in the
Oh,
drawer.
Al.
And so every time she had kittens, it was in Dad's sock drawer.
Oh my gosh.
So every time she had kittens, we would throw all Dad's socks away and get new
so
socks.
funny.
But it
It's like a
was
bird that goes back to the same nesting
every
Yeah.
single
space.
time.
Oh, Rylan yesterday, Mama, I found something. Come here, I show you. And she points at the window up in the corner, and she said, a bird, a bird. And I was like, I think it's feeding babies up there, because it was like moving around more than it normally does. It was kind of adorable. And I was like, you found the bird. I love
So
her.
with volunteers, yes,
Uh-huh.
we welcome volunteers. We love our volunteers. With our people that are just looking for community service, we may or may not be able to serve you depending on what we need in the moment, because we can't take 10 high school kids at once.
Right.
Our shelter is just not set
Now,
up
do
to be
y'all
able to
just
accommodate
take
that.
cats and dogs?
Yes. Occasionally we'll take the small, like a gerbil or something like that, because we do have a rescue up north that will sometimes take guinea pigs and gerbils.
You don't put those near the cats, do you?
We don't put them in the shelter. Period. They go to a foster
Oh.
because we don't have really
What is the
small
most
mammal
random
shelters.
animal that someone has tried to surrender?
Oh, we get, because we're Animal Harbor,
Right. And I mean, that's
you know,
very
of course, our
general.
logo has the cat and dog on it, but people think whatever. So snakes, we get a
Oh,
lot of snake calls and a lot of calls that should be going to TWRA. I would say we did have a potbelly pig once, but that's not too abnormal. But reptiles probably. And sometimes we can take those because we have staff
Lizards.
members that like them, or we know someone, we know someone that would be willing to take
You're a
them.
good connector.
There
Yeah.
was a person that came not too long ago had a gator.
Really?
Yeah, and they got caught, and they had to take it
Oh.
somewhere else because
Yeah,
that's
we
not
wouldn't want
allowed.
we wouldn't want them to release that into the wild.
Yeah,
Now, do you take your little one up there? Does she get to play?
She went for the first time a couple weeks ago, and she loves animals. So she has 2 dogs and a cat of her own at home, and she watches them constantly. And she connected with a cat in the community room, and it was the sweetest thing.
Aw.
Now, is there a way someone, because it's by appointment only, is there a way someone can go online and see the animals y'all have?
Yes. So if you pull up your cell phone or you get out your computer, it's at the top of our home page. You have view our pets, and then the adoption application. It's right there because when we get calls, we can easily just redirect people to our website. And it's always best too that yes, while the available animals are available to view, there's always animals in transition. Probably only half of our animals are posted. So it's always good to just go ahead and submit that adoption application because once we read through that and see what you're looking for, and there's a question on it that even asks like, which dog were you interested in, or what are you looking for? And we can be like, oh, that dog's on medical hold. So whenever that dog comes available, I already have this approved adopter for it. So I'm going to give them a call.
Okay.
So it's not necessary. I think like the ASPCA commercials and the commercials that you see on TV really misinform people about how most rescues and shelters operate now, because it's not just this big open warehouse where you start walking down and looking at animals and viewing them and picking them out. It almost gets to the point that people think that we're a pet store versus an adoption agency. And
A much cheaper pet store, huh?
Oh yeah. So you don't want me to get on pet stores, but
I got my first pet from Animal Harbor.
Really?
oh,
My first German Shepherd came from Animal Harbor.
and we do get purebred animals. Those we don't typically post available because we would get undulated with calls and people that honestly just want that animal because it's a purebred animal. So we have to be really careful because purebred animals are not. They're even more susceptible to abuse and neglect, to be honest, especially the pit bull breeds. So we're really careful in who we put out in the community because we're looking for quality adopters. We're looking for people that we know are going to take good care of these animals. And, we care deeply about them because we see them when they come in, when they have been
At their worst.
abused, neglected, or, really just discarded. Like they're not even their property, or so we would never put them back in that situation, if that makes sense.
I didn't pick this animal, my first one. Like the dog picked me.
Oh.
Like it was just one of those, and it was abused. It was one that had been, the person had it before, had beat it really bad. It hated men. It was
Oh.
just rough, and they said it didn't warm up to anybody. But the first we walked in there and the dog came straight to me. He sat down
Aw.
next to me and I was petting him, and the lady's like, he doesn't go to anyone.
That was your
And
dog.
Mom's like, well, we're
There you
taking that
go.
one home.
Yeah.
Because I was 5. I didn't know what I was getting.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you add because what you think by looking at a picture or reading a bio online, and you may have that initial connection, but until you meet it in person and like really get it out of its kennel and have one-on-one time with it, you don't know.
You don't know.
You really don't.
No.
And I think that if people would keep that in mind when they're wanting to adopt an animal, like it's our job our adoption process is a meet your match. It's not a you walk in and pick out your animal.
You have this perfect vision of what your animal is going to look like and how it's going to act, and then you go in and it's a completely opposite
experience.
experience.
Well, because no 2 dogs are the same.
No.
You know, another funny on Dad. We had a little Pekingese that Dad loved. It was his favorite animal on the planet. It died, and so he wanted another one. We went and found him another one, got him another Pekingese. He hated that dog with a passion. It was the devil, like the Antichrist.
Oh my goodness.
It was the worst animal we ever had. But and we had it for I don't know 7 8 years till it finally it passed on. But it was Dad hated that dog.
So he had such a great experience with his
yeah.
first Pekingese.
The
And then the
first one
second,
was-
I'm kind of in that situation now with my Dachshund. I loved my first Dachshund was amazing.
Yeah.
And this one is too. Like he came from Animal Harbor and he's 12 now, but totally different personalities.
Oh yeah.
So
Like, the first one was so calm and just it would like a lap dog pretty much all. Nope. Second one,
Loud, rambunctious.
like you,
Oh,
like
thank you.
everywhere.
yeah, and I think that's why pet adoption is so cool because you know what you're getting, you know. And I love our adoption process because we do a foster to adopt, and that is mandatory because of what we've experienced with people taking an animal home and then bringing it back the next day or not giving it enough time. So this 2-week period that we give our adopters is an acclimation period.
I see.
Even though it takes longer than that, decompression usually takes up to 3 months sometimes. But we keep in communication with our adopters and see how it's going along the way. We troubleshoot along the way. We have a trainer at the shelter that will even come out to your home to help you with a behavior that you're struggling with. It's so neat. I mean, it's so, I say boutique-y. I mean, because it's personalized.
It is.
Because that's what we want, what's best for the animal, and we want what's best for the family. So in that 2-week period, we're really close with our adopters and help them in any way. And I say too that so much of finding the right match is environmental. We have had dogs that we thought were the perfect match on paper, and once they met them at the shelter, they take them home, and it's something totally different because of the environment of their home.
Huh.
How often?
And that's the same with cats because cats are really emotional and in tune to their human. So we may have a cat that's outgoing, loves people at the shelter, like social butterfly, and it goes home and it hides for a month because there's something about that home that is not jiving with. So we have had one adopter, for example, perfect adopter, great adopter, took 3 dogs home before the right one stuck. So that's just an example of how we work with the families. And it's special because ultimately at the end, it's exactly what the family wanted and where the animal is most comfortable.
And the animal is happy.
Yes.
What's the average stay for an animal at Animal Harbor?
That's a kind of a question too that has a lot of variables attached to it. It depends on the animal itself. So some of our animals don't do well with children or cats or,
Other animals.
yeah. We don't have aggressive dogs. Our dogs, we try to make sure they're at least dog friendly with
Okay.
other dogs. We don't take aggressive. We temperament test every animal before it comes into our shelter. But still, at the same time, every animal kind of has its little quirks. So we try to figure out those quirks along the way. And unfortunately, that's another problem in our community is that what we're seeing, and unfortunately, we're seeing it right now with one case in particular. Like you said earlier, people have an expectation when they bring a dog home or a puppy. And if it doesn't meet their expectation and they're not willing to put in the work, they surrender that animal, they go get another one. And then they go get another one. Because accessibility to animals here is so high, people know that.
Yeah.
If they don't form that bond or connection and are willing to work with them, it's just a revolving door. We have what we call serial surrenders, and these are the people that do that. We actually responded to a pretty bad case recently, a little pit bull that was living on a chain, and we were able to get him indirectly, and then we find out that now there's a German Shepherd puppy on the same chain. So that's just an example of what people do.
But
Back to your question about stays. So it does depend on the animal and how its adoptability, how easy it is to get out. A small dog, obviously we can get those out really, really quickly. We don't have many small dogs. We have more medium to large breed. So that's kind of unfortunate in that we kind of have the mindset in our community that medium to large dogs are harder. Like, I can't put that dog in my house. That's an outdoor dog. And many of our medium to large dogs are not outdoor dogs. They're family dogs. They want to be inside with you. So we have a lot more issue getting large breed dogs out. So we had Dane, just Shepherd mixes, brother-sister pair that did have some behavioral issues in our shelter for over a year. That's not uncommon. So it's super unfortunate. Those dogs really get overlooked, and we promote. Those two dogs in particular went to board and train for pretty intensive behavior modification, and one did get adopted locally, and then the other is in a home in Connecticut. But it's a lot of work too, and every animal that we say comes through our doors,
So,
we try to give them
I don't get it. I don't like
exactly
little
what they
dogs.
need.
uh-uh.
I don't like little dogs.
Well, I have
Good.
I have a
Well, a
little
lot of
dog and a
people
medium
do.
dog.
I'm a big person. I need a dog that fits me.
I think you need a tiny dog. You need a little Chihuahua.
Lord no.
No, you need Henley. We have this little Great Dane mix. He's a Lot Dane at the shelter right now. He is walking beautifully on a leash. He's black. He's just a cute little thing.
Pretty.
And
So, you mentioned the commercials
Uh-huh.
earlier, and they make them look so depressing.
Yeah.
Is it that, do these animals really look like that? Are they that heartbroken, or are they socialized and played with? And,
a mix of both.
Okay.
So I always say that, like, during the day, there's enough activity going around that they're enriched. I don't know if you guys have been by the shelter recently, but we have been really, really blessed to now have a canine enrichment program. So we have our agility course out in the front. So it's a big open yard, fenced in, super nice with agility equipment in it. A lot of times, we want our dogs to experience what it's like to be a dog. We don't want them in a kennel all the time. So I would say about half of our population, because we do have 10 really large open runs, so they're able to go outside and be dogs. And then because of the shelter environment is stressful, you do have to be really, really cautious about safety, because you may have a dog that would be perfect in a situation outside of the shelter, but in the shelter, because it's stressful and there's a lot of barking, and triggers going on around them, that they might harm another
Okay.
dog. So the incidences of dog fights goes up dramatically at a
So
shelter
they're in like
because of
doggy
the stress.
prison. They get playtime, but they still have lots of restrictions.
They
Get their time in the
do
yard.
Yep,
They
get their
do.
time in the yard
for
They gotta
safety
pump
reasons.
up.
Yeah. So, and we have great program, like I said, the canine enrichment program that includes dog walkers. Those dog walkers are trained, so they go through orientation. They're trained in how to properly harness a dog, how to walk it without the dog taking complete advantage of them, because we don't want our dogs jumping up on everybody. That's a real big turn off when it comes to adoption. So we're trying to give the animal structure and stability and basic obedience at the shelter. So we do have a process to go through to even be a dog walker, because someone can come in that just wants to cuddle and play and be silly and fun, and it takes that animal's basic obedience and jumping, and it's
trashes
out
it.
the door. So, and we have to remember what's most important, and that's that animal and its success in finding a home. So that's why we do have programs that the community, if you're really committed and want to get involved in, you have to go through our trainings. But those programs are so great, and we have most of our dogs are getting walked every single day. And if we have potty trained dogs, those dogs get walked 3 to 4 times a day by the kennel staff. So we do have a staff of 10 that just is wonderful. They're a fabulous staff, and they do really good while they're there. So that's why I say after 5 o'clock is the sad time, I feel.
because they don't get to go snuggle up to their human.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. But, because so many dogs come to us either from Franklin County Animal Control or in really unsafe conditions, that you have to view it as that kennel is a safe place for them. They're not at risk for getting hit by a car. They're not at risk for being abused by someone or out on a chain, not having food and water. They have their basic needs. So that's kind of how you have to view it, because it is sad. I always say the hardest part of the day when I'm there
it's closing.
is turning the lights off and leaving, knowing they don't have someone to snuggle up with at night, and they're not on a couch. But
Yeah.
they always find their human,
My
and
little
some
one-
take longer than others.
He tries
But-
to jump in the bed in the mornings, and I'm like, dude, I just took you out. Who do you think you are? Like, your feet are wet. And he's looking at me like, I'm fixing to lay down with Rylan. Get down.
No.
Oh, no, he gets down. I'm like, who do you think you are? And he just looks at me, and he's like, oh, busted. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's wild to imagine, because we love our animals so much, that people could be cruel to animals, but it's happening much more frequently than you could ever imagine. And it's so hard for us that work at the shelter to not become cynical, and not lose faith in humanity. But then, you have the situation with the kitten. I know that you guys covered over the weekend that, yes, that kitten was subject to abuse and almost passed away, but had the life-saving surgery. And I think I ran a report yesterday about 70 donors that stepped up and took care of that surgery and made it possible for us to save that guy.
Yeah.
So then your faith in humanity is restored again, and I think that's what keeps everybody at the shelter going, because it's a hard job.
How do y'all not have like 50 animals apiece? Like,
Well, one of our staff members does. She fosters a lot of our animals that need that specialty care, because we see the process through. And well, now that I have a child and I have a dog that is reactive in my home, and I have 2 reactive dogs in my home.
So wait, what does reactive?
Reactive
mean for
means
a dog.
So
an
they
animal?
will pull on a leash to get to another dog or a
Okay.
human. So like I have both of those. I have a dog aggressive dog. So my Dachshund he would go after a pit bull.
Okay.
And then I have a people aggressive. Well, he's, that sounds really bad, but he's super fearful.
Mm-hmm.
He came from a pet store in Virginia. He came through our shelter, and now he resource guards his family, because by gosh, I'm going to take care of my family.
Those are my people.
I'm not losing this family. Plus, he's an Australian Shepherd, so
that's a super hybrid.
yeah, he's just reactive. He's going to protect his home. That's part of that breed.
I love Aussies.
And if you're an outsider to him, so he's our guard dog.
Yeah, but that breeds like that anyways. Like,
Yeah,
they're super
they can
protective.
be. They can be.
My grandmother had one growing up, and all the grandkids were great. He had no problem with them. But Mom or any of my uncles would go to hug my grandmother, and it'd bite her in the butt.
Yeah,
you
Porter
couldn't
would
touch my
definitely do
grandmother.
that. So I can't have a lot of extra dogs because of the dynamic and having a baby. But like I said, when you see the process through and you get to choose basically where they're going, and they're going to a good place, know that home's better than your home.
Yeah.
Like I think that like I want to save them all. I can't come to the shelter because I want to take everybody home. That's an egotistical way of viewing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because no, yes, I understand you love the animal, but you may not be the best home. So when you see that, and we don't want people to adopt out of guilt. We don't, and that's also a lot of the problem too. I think people get pressured into taking that litter of puppies or kittens, that you see posted on Facebook. A lot of the animals that are given away for free in our community come back to us anyways, because it's the same thing. It's cute, it's funny. I'm being impulsive. I really want that cute little kitten or puppy.
I want to make these cute TikToks with
Yes.
these adorable little animals.
Yeah, and then 6 months
Yeah,
later,
that's mine.
6 months later, when you have to invest in a spay-neuter procedure, or your male dog's roaming, trying to go find, all the factors that happen with animals.
Or you have cat litter all over your bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, I love cats, but cat litter, I can't. And so I know I cannot handle the responsibility
Train it to use
of
the
a cat.
toilet.
I do not have that kind of patience nor resources, mentally, capacity to do that.
First time I saw that actually happen, I thought, "There's no way the cat knows how to," and it does. Like I had a friend that trained their cat to use the toilet.
No,
Cats are way smarter than we give them credit.
I'm not that disciplined, and I recognize that about myself. I am not that disciplined.
So what's the most animals you've had at one time? I've been sitting here thinking that right now the whole time.
Well, we also had chickens at one time. Does that
Don't count
count?
chickens. Because if I'm gonna go with that, I've had 5,000.
I would say we probably had 4, but 2 of them were outside and 2 were inside.
So
But we're down to 2.
We had the most I can remember at one time growing up was 22 cats and 6 dogs,
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
and all of them took care of all of them. Every time, because they used to go to the health department to get the shots. It would take us every time that day would come up. It'd be 5 trips. You have to take 5 trips up there because you'd have to round them up to put them in the car, and one
Right.
was, 2 of us would be in the back with all the animals. And then my German Shepherd had to go by himself
Wow.
because he didn't like anyone else, so he would have to make his own special trip. But that
No
was,
way.
The things we do for
and
our
all free
animals.
roam. Like, we didn't have any of them, never, no pins, no, they just all,
So Benji is a little schnoodle, and he's supposed to be an inside dog, but we have an outside dog that is an Aussie mix, and so we live out in the country, and he wants to go run.
Oh, yeah.
We're in between cow fields, and he thinks it's amazing to
Oh.
chase cows. Well, you can imagine how he comes
he's
in.
an Aussie. It's what he's
No,
bred
no,
to
no,
be.
no. Benji the schnoodle.
Oh,
So Benji, I tell everybody when they come over now, I'm like, he's going to try and escape because he's trying to get back outside, but he's grounded. He's a leash dog now. So on like bath day, I'm like, fine, go run, get your puppy out, and then it's bath day, and then you're back on the leash until
Yeah.
bath day comes again because he wants to run the cows.
And he probably gets in cow manure, too.
Oh, that's
They
what
love
I'm
to roll in
saying.
it.
He loves, and he is a bird killer and a rat killer. And so he brings me tons of things up to the stairs,
Wow.
and then I'll sit there and he's rolling in it in front of me like, So I'm like, no, you were an inside dog. You're now a leash dog. You're grounded.
So imagine someone not as patient as you in
Oh.
that situation. They bring them to the shelter.
Yeah.
They're done. But thankfully you love yours and you have that connection. And we give them a ton of grace, right?
I'm telling you.
all right. Got to ask your question.
Oh, are we there? Are we
Yep.
there?
It's probably time.
Oh
I
my
can't believe
gosh,
how
that went
fast things
fast.
goes by. Yeah, because we
Okay.
haven't talked about the
Oh,
golf tournament.
We didn't talk about any of, like, you have a golf tournament coming
Yeah.
up. You've got a gala. Is that the
Yeah,
way?
so kind of hot off the press, we have decided. So it's our 20th year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
So, yeah, we're celebrating our 20th year this year. And so with that, we're having a huge gala at Monterey Station November 4th. So everybody can save the date for that. And it's an awesome theme. It's Animal Harbor Goes Hollywood. So we are doing it big, and we're going to have limousine, photo ops. You can come dress as your favorite movie character. We're going to have music through the decades, cigar and whiskey tasting, the works. So
Okay. How do they
that's
find
gonna be
tickets?
really fun.
Are tickets
Tickets are
available?
not for sale yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to get through the golf tournament,
Mhm.
and then once the golf tournament is wrapped up next weekend, I'll start putting tickets out for people to purchase. And we really want to fill the house because we want to we're hopeful to raise $20,000 in our 20th year, just in
Okay.
that event alone.
Uh-huh.
It does cost us, and we didn't really talk about this, about $450,000 to run the shelter a year.
Okay.
All of that is coming through individual donations and a couple larger grants that I apply for and get. But yeah, we definitely rely on the community to keep this going. So
Can people make monetary donations as well as what's the
Physical
word?
in kind?
What like
Like-
dog food,
yeah,
blankets?
absolutely.
Cat
Blankets,
food.
we get a ton of those.
Okay.
So I would just call the shelter.
Ask what you need.
And ask what we need. Same thing with food. Right now we had a huge donation from Bissell Pet Foundation come through that's really high quality Purina Pro Plan cat food. So right now we don't need any cat food. We probably need puppy food and adult dog food. So again, it's always a good idea to call the shelter and ask exactly what they need.
And how do
Cleaning
they-
products, they're always needed. We go through cleaning products, and of course, it's not the funnest thing to buy for an animal shelter, but it's a huge
It's
part of our
necessary.
expense. Yeah.
Uh-huh. How do they go about making a donation of any sort?
So you can call the shelter and, of course, ask what we need. And it's super easy to donate. The kennel techs or the office staff check a donation tote outside, so you don't even have to come in. You can just drop it in the donation tote. If it's too big, somebody's there answering the phone at any time, so you can get in touch. Well, not any time. Our phone hours are Tuesday through Friday, 10 o'clock-ish to 4 o'clock-ish.
Okay.
So just call. I'll also leave a message. I will say our phone lines stay pretty busy, so just be patient. You can also text our Facebook. I'm responsible for kind of keeping up with those messages, and I'll direct people that way as well. But just keep trying to call if you can't get in touch, because again, we're in an overpopulation crisis, and the girls told me just yesterday in 1 hour of answering the phones, they had 5 surrender calls, and those surrender calls typically somebody's telling you the life story. So unfortunately, we're stuck on the phone a lot, and that can get frustrating.
You didn't know
for
you were a
people.
therapist too.
Oh, honey. And that's another reason why, in order for us to successfully fulfill our mission, we have to do appointment only, because when we have those walk-ins, that's what the staff is doing. They're spending 30 minutes to an hour just talking to somebody, and you can't be rude and just say, sorry, gotta go.
Give me the facts.
But look, I have work to do. I have to save lives. I have to work on this transport coming up.
Right.
We transport Saturdays. That's why we're not open on Saturdays. That's when we're doing our transports. And we're moving 25, 30 dogs at a time. That means vetting, health certificates, everything has to be done. And
Lined up.
we're like any other business that has a lot going on behind the scenes. So we definitely encourage people to be patient in that, it's you don't just walk in and get what you need in the moment, but we promise our
It's a
customer
process.
service is there. We're going to call you back. We're going to answer that adoption application. We're going to help you in any way we can. We just need you to be a little bit patient, because we're short-staffed and a very, very high demand service in our community.
Gotcha. All right, so the questions are,
Yeah.
one piece of advice that you think if more people understood, it would make life easier.
Oh, gosh. I think probably the biggest one that's super big picture, but affects us on the day-to-day, would be understanding that we're not animal control services. So we are Animal Harbor. We're a private, nonprofit shelter that's funded by individual donors. Franklin County Animal Control is the county's animal control services. So if you see instances of animal abuse that you want to report, you need to call Franklin County Animal Control. We don't go out into the field to do wellness checks. That is Franklin County Animal Control's job. They are operated under the county, under the sheriff's department. They are the ones that are going to be investigating any animal cruelty. I think because we have the Humane Society attached to our name, so Franklin County Humane Society is how we incorporated. A lot of people think that we do animal control services, and we don't. So that keeps our phone lines busy quite often. And I think understanding that we are in partnership with our animal control, we try to help as much as we can. Our vision for our community is to minimize life lost. And we've really worked hard in the past few years to work with animal control so where they don't have to euthanize.
Yeah.
So we get told all the time, we don't want our animal to go to animal control because it's going to be euthanized. That's a fallacy. That's a myth. Especially if it's a puppy or a kitten. Those animals are going to find rescue commitments. If it's a good dog that has good temperament, that is good with children, good with other animals, I promise it's going to find a way out of the shelter.
That's great to know. What is your life mantra, motto, daily get through?
I don't know. I think act with integrity is a big one. So everything that we do, and I do, I try to have compassion and kindness towards everybody that we encounter, because we obviously don't encounter the best intent people out there, but knowing that everybody's going through something, and kindness really goes a long way.
It does.
And I ask for my staff, because I'm the executive director, and I have to really stand it back for them, that kindness really goes a long way. Like, those girls are trying the best they can to save as many lives as humanly possible. They're working overtime. So just be kind to the staff and act with integrity when you're working with us, because we do want to help you. We're not out to get you. And also being able to impact or influence or save one life a day
Makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, shout out. If you could shout out one individual business, who would it be?
Oh, wow. So that one's hard, because we have corporate sponsorships
Okay,
now.
well,
We have a new package.
You can throw a couple out there.
So we have levels that's tiered, and we have what we call our Saint sponsors, which are our highest tiered sponsors, and those are Joseph's Remodeling Solutions in Monteagle, Animal Care Center, one of our partner vets. We have Dr. Basaraba with Southern Tennessee Cardiology and Vein, and my last one is Moore Courtner Funeral Home. So those are our Saint level sponsors that contribute $5,000 a year to our organization. So those corporate local businesses really
Make a
help move
difference.
the needle because yeah, I have a big budget to manage, so
Yeah.
it's always good to have that community support.
Well, thank you so much for
Of
joining us
course.
today,
Of
and
course.
hope you have a great
Yeah,
rest of your week.
and golf tournament is June 17th. We have about 5 team spots left, so
Okay.
call me please. My number's on the flyer. Maybe I can provide that, and you can share that on the page, and let's fill those 5 team
Okay.
spots. Because next week will be crazy. I'll be getting so many calls, and I'll have to turn a lot of people down. So
Gotcha.
go ahead and call me if you want to sign up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.